Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be reviewing the shooter game Destiny 2. I'll talk about some basic good and bad aspects of the game, and in the end I'll have a conclusion and a score out of 10 for the game. So let's get started. For those who don't know, Destiny 2 is a free online multiplayer or solo action shooter with RPG elements created by the company Bungie. You play as a super-powered guardian, and you play different activities to level up and upgrade your gear. You can either play as a warlock, hunter, or titan. Each class has different abilities and one broken ability called a super. When I mean broken, I mean extremely powerful. To name a few, for warlock you can basically become Emperor Palpatine for a while, shooting lightning out of your fingers. You have for hunters, you can channel your inner yeehaw cowboy and wield a gun that spits flame, and for titans you can become Captain America and throw void shields. There are many other supers you can choose from that are categorized under different elements. Within Destiny 2, you can play basic PvP, which is categorized under the Crucible, play PvE missions, which are called strikes, or play Gambit, which is a combination of both. You can also just patrol areas such as Earth, Europa, Nessus, the Moon, or the Tangled Shore, to name a few. Destiny 2 also has a new season every 3 months. Within each season, new weapons are introduced and new activities are brought into the game. The downside of this is that you have to pay for a season's pass, which is approximately $10, to get everything the season has to offer. Here are some good aspects of that. I have them categorized under different topics that the good aspects are related to. So the first aspect is playability. The base game is free, and new players have a lot to do when they make a character. It may seem overwhelming, but even players coming back from a break from the game can play for hours without getting bored. Trust me, I have 440 hours on the game. Though some activities are more irritating than others, Destiny 2 overall is very welcoming for new and returning players. The community is also very alive, and the game has one of the highest active game player count. Next, let's talk about gunplay and mods. The game's gunplay is very polished. Even though some guns lag behind in PvP and other guns excel, it's not hard to frag out in a PvP game with a non-meta weapon. Within PvE, the gunplay is even better. You can make whatever loadouts you want. Each gun will have a set of random perks that you can put together to make your ultimate killing machine. On your armor, you can put in mods. These mods can either boost your stats or how fast you get your abilities. They can modify guns or change your playstyle. Because of this large mod pool, you can make builds that complement your weapons. On to our next category, abilities. Some supers are used a lot more than others, like how Dawnblade, Shadebinder, and Chaos Reach are used the most by warlocks in the Crucible. Supers are pretty good, but some supers may be harder to shut down than others. Most abilities are balanced and useful in certain ways. For example, the suppressor grenade for Titans are useful for disabling your opponent's abilities for a certain amount of time. It'll help you move out of your position or push their position in PvP. On to our final category, strikes and Crucible. Strikes are easy ways to get loot, with an average strike taking about 12 minutes. If you think strikes are too easy, you can play strikes with modifiers that will make it harder. These are called nightfalls. And you think nightfalls are easy? Gather 6 people together to do a raid, which is an activity with complicated mechanics and challenging bosses. All of these activities will give you very rewarding loot. Crucible is not in a good place currently, but the gunplay is altered in the PvP pool, so things can be as balanced as possible, but there is an obvious meta. So I covered the base good aspects of the game, so now on to the bad parts of the game that I think are bad. They're not really categorized in any way, I just have them written down. So let's get started. Destiny 2's file size is gigantic. In the system requirements section on Steam, it says Destiny 2 requires 105 gigabytes of available space. It's not surprising after seeing how much content the game has, but the file is still very big. A lot of things are also paywalled. Sure, there are a lot of things new players and free-to-play players can do, but if you want to unlock powerful abilities like stasis, you need to pay. A while ago, the game developers of the game introduced a system called sunsetting, which got rid of old DLCs, weapons, and planets to make file space for the new campaigns. This aged terribly, and there was a huge loot drought when the new campaign was released. The loot drought has been fixed for now, but now without the original campaigns, players find it hard to have an emotional attachment to certain characters. On to PvP. In PvP, certain subclasses and powers dominate, especially Stasis. Stasis is an element you can get through buying the Beyond Light expansion. It's basically just cosmic ice. The Stasis abilities and supers are overpowered. People are getting frozen left and right. Bungie nerfed them recently, but they recently added a few new aspects, which are perks that change your Stasis abilities in some way, that literally contradicted the nerf. It's also been 602 days since Bungie has released a new Crucible map, and it's been 806 since a new Gambit map was released. The map making department seems to be asleep or something, because Sunsetting removed half the PvP and Gambit maps, then none were added in the new expansion. On top of this, there are higher level PvP activities in the game, such as Trials of Osiris and Iron Banner. They are very rewarding when you play, but most of the time they make me want to punch a hole into my monitor. In Trials of Osiris, there are tons of hackers, and Bungie's quote-unquote anti-cheat doesn't seem to be working. This isn't exactly a big deal, but Destiny 2 can be a bit overwhelming at the start. A lot of my friends who started playing Destiny this year were very confused, and most of the time the in-game tutorial is not enough. I recommend watching a tutorial on YouTube once you finish the in-game tutorial. The video I recommend for that is Marco Styles' Complete Destiny 2 Beginner/New Player Guide. The video was released last year, but the information should still be relevant and good to know. The link will be in the description of the video. Now, my conclusion. Overall, Destiny 2 is a fairly polished game that you can play for hours on end without getting bored. Though there are some parts I don't necessarily like about the game and things that the developers should look into, the game is a solid 8 out of 10. I think if the developers added Crucible Gambit maps, nerfed Stasis a bit more, and made PvE activities a little more interesting, it would move the game's score to an 8.5 or 9 out of 10, I'd say. In the end, the game is something you should definitely try if you can, and it's free, so you don't lose anything if you don't like the game. Well, except for your file space, obviously. I hope you guys enjoyed this type of video. There will probably be some more in the coming weeks. Thank you for listening. I'll see you later. Peace.